It was an ordinary Thursday in October when my life changed completely. I had left work early to surprise Marion, my wife of 12 years. I stopped by the florist and bought a bouquet of white lilies, her favorite flowers. I was excited about surprising her with an impromptu romantic dinner. How could I have imagined that instead of a pleasant evening, I was about to discover something that would destroy everything we had built together? When I got home, silence greeted me. Marion had left for Pilates, as she did every Thursday. Her cell phone was charging on the living room table, forgotten as it always did when she was in a hurry. It was then that the screen lit up with a notification, a message from a contact saved only as R. I can't wait to see you again. Yesterday was incredible. My heart froze. I felt as if the ground had disappeared from under my feet. With trembling hands, I picked up the phone. I knew the password. She'd never hidden anything from me, or so I thought. I unlocked her phone and opened the conversation. What I saw next was like being punched multiple times in the gut. The messages were too explicit to leave any doubt. Marion was having an affair. The conversations went back 3 months. 3 months of lies, of extra work, of dinners with friends. Richard, I discovered his full name by scrolling through the messages, was a colleague at the law firm where she worked. The photos exchanged, the secret meetings, the passionate declarations. It was all there, documented in nauseating detail. I sat on the couch, still holding the phone, trying to process this avalanche of information. 12 years. We planned to have children next year. We just bought our dream apartment. How could she do this to us? How could I have been so blind? It was then that a new message arrived. Marion, my love, have you confirmed our dinner tomorrow? I booked that Italian restaurant you wanted to try. I can't wait to have you all to myself all night. Something broke inside me at that moment. It wasn't just sadness or anger. It was a complex mix of emotions that included, surprisingly, a cold, calculating calm. My fingers moved almost of their own accord as I began typing a reply. Hi, darling. About tomorrow. We need to talk about something important. The reply came almost instantly. What's wrong? Is everything okay? You're making me worried. I took a deep breath before continuing to type. I knew Marion better than anyone. I knew exactly how she wrote, her favorite expressions, her language habits. 12 years of knowing her had given me this intimate knowledge that I would now use in ways I never imagined. Richard, I need to be honest with you. These last few months have been wonderful, but I've been thinking a lot about us, about what we're doing. Marion, you're scaring me. I thought we were fine. Yesterday you told me you loved me. My hands were shaking, but I continued. I know what I said. But today, looking at my husband, I realized what a terrible mistake I'm making. Paul doesn't deserve this. You have your wife too. We're destroying 2 families for a moment of pleasure. Don't talk like that. What we have is special. You said yourself you never felt this way with him. Marion, I love you. I'm willing to give up everything for you. The mention of my name in their conversation hit me like a knife. I continued, this time with more determination. Richard, I need to tell you something. Paul found out everything. There was a long pause before the answer appeared. What do you mean he found out? What did he say? Marion, are you okay? Did he hurt you? He saw our messages, all of them. The photos too. Oh my God. Marion, call me now. We need to talk. I can't call. He's here. Richard, he said he's going to tell his wife. He has her number. The status showed Richard typing, deleting, typing again. Finally, the message arrived. He can't do this. Marion, this will destroy my family, my children. Claire can't know about this. You have to stop him. Claire. So that was the name of the betrayed wife. I felt a pang of guilt thinking about her, but I continued with my plan. He's very hurt. Richard. He said you men in the office need to learn not to mess around with other people's wives. He mentioned something about taking screenshots of conversations and sending them to all the partners in the firm. No. Marion, for God's sake. This would end my career. The partners are extremely conservative. A scandal like this, I'd be fired on the spot. You have to convince him not to do this. I tried, but he's adamant. He said you deserve to lose everything. just like he's losing. Marion, listen. I'm going to come over now. I need to talk to him. Explain, apologize, anything. No, don't come. Here. It would only make things worse. Richard, I think you'd better tell Claire before she finds out from Paul. Are you crazy? I can't tell her this. What if Paul calls her first, or worse, shows up at your house with the evidence? At least if you tell her, you can control the narrative. I knew men like Richard. Cowards who wanted the thrill of the affair, but not the consequences. I knew he was in a complete panic now. Marion, this is a nightmare. What are we going to do? There's no us anymore, Richard. It's over. It was a mistake from the start. You should focus on saving your marriage now. You can't do this to me. You said you loved me, and I love my husband. I always have. I just lost it for a moment. Richard, I'm going to delete all our conversations now. I suggest you do the same, and please, don't look for me anymore. Not at work, not anywhere. Marion, please, let's talk in person tomorrow. No, I'm requesting a transfer to the St. Paul branch. It's better this way. St. Paul? Marion, you can't just disappear. Goodbye, Richard. I sincerely hope you can fix things with Claire. She didn't deserve this. Neither of them did. I blocked his number before he could respond. Then I deleted the entire conversation, but not before taking screenshots of everything and sending them to my own phone. I put her phone back on the charger, exactly where it was. I picked up the flowers I'd bought and threw them in the trash. The apartment looked different now, as if every piece of furniture, every photo on the wall, was a lie. I went to the bedroom and started packing a suitcase. I couldn't be there when she arrived. As I was folding my clothes, my phone rang. It was Marion. Hi, love. I just got back from Pilates. I stopped by the market to buy that wine you like. I thought we could have a special night tonight. The naturalness in her voice impressed me. How could someone lie so easily? Hi, I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. I'm spending the night at Carlos's. There's a problem with the company's server, and we'll be working all night. Oh, that's too bad. I missed you, but it's okay, we'll talk tomorrow. I love you. Also, was all I could say before hanging up. I finished packing my things and left. I drove to my brother Carlos's house, who lived an hour away. During the drive, my phone didn't stop ringing. Marion was frantically trying to call me. The messages started pouring in. Paul, where are you? Please call me. I can explain everything. It's not what you think. Paul, please, let's talk. You went through my phone? How could you? What did you say to him? Paul, you destroyed my life. Please come home. I didn't answer. When I arrived at Carlos's house, he immediately realized something was wrong. I told him everything. He was silent for a long time before speaking. You did what? He asked, incredulous. Paul, that was brilliant and terrible at the same time. I know. But at the time, I just couldn't control myself. The anger, the humiliation. It was too much for me. What now? What are you going to do? Honestly, I don't know. I need time to process all of this. I spent the next few days at Carlos's house. Marion tried to contact me in every way possible. Calls, texts, emails. She even involved my mother, asking her to mediate. But I wasn't ready to talk to her. On the fourth day, I received a text from an unknown number. Are you Paul, Marion's husband? This is Claire, Richard's wife. I need to talk to you. My heart raced. I said yes, and she asked to meet at a cafe, downtown. I accepted, curious and apprehensive. Claire was a beautiful woman, looking about 40, with red eyes like someone who'd cried a lot. We sat at a secluded table, and she got straight to the point. Richard told me everything about the affair with your wife. He said you found out and threatened to tell me and the partners at the firm. I remained silent, not knowing exactly what to say. He's desperate, she continued. He asked for forgiveness, said it was a mistake, that it would never happen again. He's willing to go to couples therapy, anything. And you? What have you decided to do? I asked. She sighed deeply. We have 2 teenage children, 17 years of marriage. It's not easy to throw everything away. But I also don't know if I can forgive. Betrayal hurts too much. I understand perfectly, I replied, and I really did. Paul, I need to know. Do you have the proof? The conversations, the photos? I pulled out my phone and showed her some of the screenshots I'd saved. She glanced quickly and looked away, tears streaming down her face. "It's worse than I imagined," she murmured. "Claire, I'm so sorry. No one deserves to go through this." "You didn't deserve it either. Marion, you two looked so happy. I saw you at the company's celebratory dinner last year. You seemed like the perfect couple." Looks can be deceiving. We were silent for a moment. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "Are you going to forgive her?" "I don't know. The trust was broken in a way I'm not sure can be repaired. What about you?" Richard resigned from the firm. He said it was best to leave before a scandal forced him to. "We're selling the house, moving to the countryside, near my parents. Maybe the distance will help rebuild something, or maybe it will just make the separation easier. I don't know yet. Drastic changes. Necessary, I'd say. I couldn't live knowing. He'd see her every day at work." She was right. The closeness would make any attempt at reconciliation impossible. "Paul, can I give you some advice?" she asked. I nodded. "What you did, impersonating her, was wrong. But I understand the anger, the desire for revenge. I myself felt like doing something similar. But now you need to decide if you want revenge, or if you want to heal. The two rarely go together." Her words echoed in my mind long after we said goodbye. A week later, I finally agreed to meet Marion. We chose a public park, neutral ground. When I saw her, I noticed she had lost weight. Deep circles under her eyes. She seemed to have aged years in a matter of days. "Paul," she began. But I held up my hand to stop her. "Let me go first. I know everything. The 3-month affair, the lies, the meetings. I saw the messages, the photos, everything." She lowered her head, tears falling silently. "What you did, impersonating me, was cruel," she said weakly. "Cruel?" I replied, anger returning. "It was cruel that you cheated on me for 3 months. It was cruel that you shared our intimacy with another man. It was cruel that you made me look like a fool while you lived a double life. I know, you're right, I messed up. But Paul, I love you. I always have. It was just a moment of weakness, of confusion." 3 months isn't a moment, Marion. It's a conscious, repeated choice. I want to fix this. We can go to therapy. We can start over. Please don't throw away 12 years because of one mistake. You threw it away when you decided to have an affair." She cried harder. "What did you say to him, Paul? Why did you do that?" "I just hastened the inevitable." "Did you really think you could keep this hidden forever? That he would leave his wife for you? That you would live happily ever after?" I don't know what I was thinking. I was confused, feeling neglected. Neglected? Marion, I worked to give us a good life, to build our future. And you forgot to live in the present with me. You were always tired, always busy. Richard paid attention to me, made me feel desired. So it's my fault? No, it's not that. It's my fault, completely mine. But our marriage was already having problems before this. She had a point, though I hated to admit it. Maybe I had distanced myself, focused too much on work. But that didn't justify the betrayal. "Marion, Richard quit his job. He and Claire are moving." She looked surprised. "How do you know that?" "Claire came to me. We talked. You two, don't be ridiculous. We talked about the damage you and her husband caused, about how to move on." Marion was silent for a moment. "I quit my job too," she finally said. "I couldn't stay there after everything. I'm going back to my parents' house for a while." "What about the apartment?" "It's yours by right. I'm the one who ruined everything." We sat in silence, watching people pass by in the park. Happy families, couples holding hands, children playing. Life continued around us while ours fell apart. "Paul, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" she asked in a small voice. "Honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness is a process, not a decision. Maybe one day the anger will pass and only indifference will remain. Maybe I'll be able to remember the good times without the betrayal tainting everything. But trusting again, I know I won't be able to. She nodded, accepting the harsh truth. I'm going to stop by my parents' house now. My things are already in the car. The apartment keys are on the kitchen table. Paul, despite everything, I want you to know that the 12 years we spent together were real to me. The mistake of the last 3 months doesn't erase that. It does for me, I replied honestly. Because now I question every moment, every I love you, every promise. I no longer know what was real and what was a lie. She got up to leave, but turned around one last time. What you did with the messages, it was brilliant and cruel. Part of me even admires the creativity of revenge. But Paul, be careful that bitterness doesn't consume the good man that you are. She left, and I sat there for another hour, processing everything. The revenge had been sweet in the moment, but the bitter taste it left lingered. 3 months passed. The divorce was in progress, without many complications. Marion didn't contest anything. She took the blame. I learned from mutual friends that she was in therapy, trying to understand what led her to destroy our marriage. Richard and Claire were still together, from what I heard. The move to the countryside seemed to have given them a chance to start over. Sometimes I wondered if my intervention had, ironically, saved their marriage by forcing the truth to the surface. I also started therapy. I needed to process not only the betrayal, but also my reaction to it. The therapist helped me understand that revenge, while temporarily satisfying, had been a way to avoid dealing with the real pain of loss. You turned your pain into anger, and your anger into action, he said in one session. But now you need to allow yourself to feel the sadness, the grief for the relationship you lost. He was right. Behind all the anger was a deep sadness. I had lost not only my wife, but my best friend, my companion, my plans for the future. The apartment felt too empty without Marion. Every corner held a memory. The mark on the wall where we tried to hang a painting and it fell. The sofa we'd chosen together after visiting 10 different stores. The balcony where we'd had coffee on Sunday mornings. I started going out with friends more, reconnecting with abandoned hobbies. I started playing soccer again on Thursdays, something I'd stopped doing because Marion complained about me arriving late. I took cooking classes and discovered I had a talent for cooking. Small steps toward a new life. One night, 6 months after the separation, I received a message from Marion. Paul, I know I promised not to bother you, but I needed to tell you something. I've been in intensive therapy these past few months and have come to understand a lot about myself. I discovered patterns of self-sabotage that date back to childhood. I'm not saying this to apologize or ask for forgiveness, just to let you know that I'm working to be a better person. What I did to you was unforgivable, but I hope that one day you find peace and happiness with someone who deserves your love. You are an incredible man, despite what you did with the messages, which, I admit, was brilliant. Be happy, Paul. That's all I wish for you. I read the message several times. I didn't respond immediately. I let the words settle, processing the feelings they evoked. 3 days later, I replied, Marion, thank you for the message. I'm glad you're working on yourself. I am too. What happened between us was destructive for both of us, each in our own way. I no longer hold a grudge, only sadness for what we lost. I hope you also find happiness, and, most importantly, that you learn to value the person you choose to be by your side. Be happy too. It was a necessary closure, not a reconciliation, but an acknowledgement that we were two flawed human beings who had hurt each other deeply. A year passed. Life had found a new rhythm. The divorce was finalized. I sold the apartment, too many memories, and bought a smaller one, closer to work. A fresh start in every sense. It was in a bookstore that I ran into Claire again. She was in the self-help section, leafing through a book about starting over. We greeted each other with surprise and a certain joy. How are you? I asked, genuinely interested. Better, she replied with a small smile. Richard and I have been officially divorced for 2 months. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the right decision. We tried, but the trust never returned. Every time he left, I wondered where he really was. It's no way to live. I completely understand. And you? How's single life? It has its ups and downs, but I'm fine. Learning to be myself again. We talked for a few more minutes. She mentioned that she was living with her children in a smaller house, working as a freelance consultant. She seemed lighter, despite everything. Paul, can I ask you a personal question? She asked before we said goodbye. Of course. Do you regret what you did? Replying to the messages pretending to be her? I thought for a moment. It's complex. I regret the way I acted, driven by anger. But I don't regret hastening the end of a lie. Maybe if I hadn't done that, they would have continued the affair. More people would have been hurt for longer. In a twisted way, my revenge brought the truth to light. It's an interesting way to look at it, she said thoughtfully. Richard said he panicked when he received those messages. He really thought Marion was breaking up with him and that you would destroy his life. Desperation made him confess everything, to me before it was too late. What if he hadn't confessed? If he'd tried to keep up the lie, I would have found out eventually. We always do, don't we? The signs were there, I just chose not to see them. It was true. Looking back, the signs of Marion's affair were there too. The subtle changes in behavior, the new underwear, the different perfume, the cell phone always nearby. I had chosen to trust blindly. We parted with a warm hug. There was a strange connection between us, two collateral victims of the same betrayal. 2 years after that fateful Thursday, my life had stabilized into a new normal. I'd been promoted at work. I was dating someone. Nothing serious yet, but promising. The wounds had turned into scars, still visible, but no longer painful. One afternoon, while organizing old documents, I found a photo of us from our wedding. Marion was radiant in her white dress. I was smiling as if I were the happiest man in the world. And in that moment, I was. The photo didn't provoke anger or sadness, just a gentle melancholy for what had been and was no longer. My therapist once told me that true forgiveness isn't about forgetting or excusing, but rather about releasing the power that hurt has over us. I don't know if I've completely forgiven Marion, but I've certainly freed myself from the weight of that betrayal. As for my digital revenge, over time, I've come to see it in a more nuanced way. It certainly wasn't my noblest moment. Acting out of anger rarely leads to good decisions. But it wasn't completely destructive either. In a strange way, my action precipitated a resolution that needed to happen. The lies were exposed, the consequences were faced, and everyone involved was eventually able to move on with their lives. Richard lost his job and his marriage, but learned he was rebuilding his life in another city. Marion went through a painful process of self-discovery, and, according to mutual friends, was in a healthy relationship with someone she met in group therapy. Claire found strength she didn't know she had, and built an independent and fulfilling life. And me? I learned about the complexities of love, betrayal, forgiveness, and revenge. Could the story have been different? Certainly. If Marion hadn't cheated, if I hadn't found out, if I hadn't responded to those messages. But dealing with what-ifs is a futile exercise. What happened, happened, and each of us has had to deal with the consequences of our actions. Today, when I tell this story, I rarely do, people have mixed reactions. Some applaud my creative revenge. Others criticize me for violating her privacy and manipulating the situation. Many say they could have done worse. A few suggest I should have simply confronted Marion directly. Everyone is right, in their own way. What I did was simultaneously understandable and questionable, creative and cruel, poetic justice and emotional manipulation. Real life rarely offers us purely right or wrong choices. We navigate murky waters, making imperfect decisions, with incomplete information and overflowing emotions. If I could go back in time, would I do it differently? Honestly, I don't know. The anger in that moment was overwhelming, almost uncontrollable. Maybe I would have confronted Marion directly. Maybe I would have simply walked away without saying anything. Or maybe I would have done exactly the same thing. It's impossible to know. What I do know is that Thursday in October divided my life into before and after. Before, I was a trusting husband, perhaps too naive. Afterward, I became someone more cautious, but also more aware. I lost my innocence about love, but gained wisdom about human nature. Relationships are complex, fragile, and precious. They can survive many storms, but betrayal and broken trust are particularly lethal poisons. Once trust is broken, even if the relationship continues, it is never the same. It's like a porcelain vase that has been glued together. It may still serve its purpose, but the cracks will always be visible. My digital revenge was a moment of weakness disguised as strength. It was the action of a wounded man wanting to hurt back. I'm not proud of it, but I don't condemn myself for it either. It was human, all too human. Today, when I lie in my new bed, in my new apartment, with my new life, I sometimes think about that Thursday. Not with anger or sadness, but with a strange gratitude. Gratitude for having discovered the truth, however painful it was. Gratitude for having had the strength to start over. Gratitude even for the pain, which taught me about my own resilience. Revenge, I've discovered, is like emotional fast food. It satisfies in the moment, but leaves you empty afterward. True victory lies not in making others suffer, but in overcoming your own suffering. It lies not in destroying the one who hurt you, but in rebuilding yourself despite the pain. Marian was right in her last message when she told me to be careful not to let bitterness consume the good man I was. It was valuable advice, even coming from the one who had caused the hurt. Bitterness is a poison we drink, hoping the other person will die. I've chosen, little by little, to stop drinking that poison. I'm not the same man I was before that Thursday. I'm more cautious, less naive, more aware of the complexities of relationships. But I'm also stronger, more independent, and more self-aware. Marian's betrayal and my digital revenge were catalysts for a transformation that, while painful, was necessary. If someone asked me today what advice I would give to someone in the same situation, I would say, take a deep breath, seek professional help, and don't make decisions in the heat of the moment. Revenge may seem sweet, but the bitter taste lingers long after the initial satisfaction wears off. The best revenge is to live well, overcome, and grow. But I would also say, be kind to yourself if you act less than noble. We are human, imperfect, fallible. Sometimes we do things we're not proud of. The important thing is to learn, to grow, and not let a moment of weakness define who we are. The story I lived, of discovery, betrayal, revenge, and overcoming, is not unique. Thousands of people go through similar situations every day. Each reacts in their own way, with their own mistakes and successes. There is no manual for dealing with betrayal, no perfect path to overcoming. What exists is the daily choice to move forward, to not let the past define the future, to transform pain into learning. And that's what all of us, Marian, Richard, Claire, and I, had to do. Each in our own way, with our own demons and challenges. Today, 3 years later, I can say I am at peace. Not a perfect, scar-free peace, but a real peace, achieved through pain and growth. I found love again. Different. More mature. More conscious. I built a new life on the ruins of the old. The message on Marian's phone that Thursday was the beginning of the end, but it was also the end of a beginning. The end of illusion, the beginning of truth. The end of naivety, the beginning of wisdom. The end of a love, the beginning of self-knowledge. My digital revenge? It was a chapter in this story. Not the noblest, certainly, but genuine in its human imperfection. It was the cry of pain of a betrayed man, the visceral reaction of someone who had their world destroyed. Was it wrong? Perhaps. Was it understandable? Certainly. Was it human? Without a doubt. And that is who we are, ultimately. Human. Imperfect. Capable of great love and great pain, of noble gestures and questionable actions. Navigating life to the best of our abilities, making mistakes, learning, growing. My story has no clearly defined heroes or villains. Marian wasn't a monster, just a woman who made terrible choices. Richard wasn't evil incarnate, just a weak man who gave in to temptation. Claire and I weren't perfect victims, She chose not to see the signs. I chose revenge. We are all complex, multifaceted, human. If you're reading this because you're going through something similar, know this. The pain passes. Not completely, not perfectly, but it passes. The sun shines again. Laughter becomes genuine again. Love becomes possible again. Different, more cautious perhaps, but possible. And if you're on the other side, if you're the one who betrayed, know this too. Forgiveness is possible, especially forgiveness itself. To err is human. To learn from it is divine. Redemption exists for those who genuinely seek change. My digital revenge was a moment, a reaction, an imperfect choice in an impossible moment. It doesn't define who I am, it merely illustrates who I was in that moment of extreme pain. Today, I am more than that moment. I am the sum of all my choices, the good and the bad, the noble and the questionable. And so, this story ends. Not with a Hollywood happy ending, but with a real human, imperfect ending. Marion followed her path. I followed mine. Richard and Claire found their own paths. The apartment we bought together now houses another family, other stories, other dreams. Life goes on, always goes on. And we, small and imperfect humans, carry on with it, carrying our scars like medals from wars we would rather not have fought, but which made us who we are. That Thursday in October will forever remain in my memory. The day I discovered the betrayal, the day I took digital revenge, the day my life changed completely. But it's no longer an open wound. It's a scar, a mark, a reminder that I survived, overcame, was reborn. And in the end, perhaps that's what matters. Not the betrayal, not the revenge, not the pain, but the resilience, the growth, the human capacity to reinvent ourselves after destruction. Marion, Richard, Claire, and I, we all had to learn this lesson the hard way. The digital revenge I exacted that day was sweet for exactly 3 minutes. The healing process took 3 years and continues. But it was worth it, not the revenge, but the journey that followed. The discovery that I am stronger than I thought, more resilient than I imagined, more capable of forgiveness, of myself and others, than I ever imagined. And so, with this reflection, I end this story. A story of betrayal and revenge. Yes, but, above all, a story of resilience and rebirth. An imperfect story about imperfect people doing the best they can with the cards life dealt them. A story, after all, deeply human.